Picture this for a second. An employee is sitting at their desk. They've been asked to prepare a pretty short internal presentation. So they start typing away, pulling in the data, structuring the arguments. 3 hours later, the actual content is totally finished. The ideas are all there, the logic is sound. It's honestly a really solid piece of work. But they don't hit send.
Instead, the clock just keeps ticking. Hour 4 rolls around, then hour 5. By hour 6, they are still sitting in exactly the same spot, caught in this endless looping cycle of changing fonts, adjusting the alignment of tiny icons by literally a few pixels, and rewriting sentences that already made perfect sense hours ago. They're trapped in this incredibly visceral, exhausting scenario where the real heavy lifting has been done for a long time, but they physically cannot seem to let the project go.
Their manager walks by, glances at the screen, looks at the time, and asks a very simple question. Why isn't it finished? And the employee, probably feeling a little bit defensive and honestly a little exhausted at this point, replies, I just want it to be really good. Now, right on the surface, that sounds like a fantastic work ethic, doesn't it? But dig a little deeper, and this behavior is actually being driven by what psychologists call an iceberg belief. These are these deep, unconscious rules we carry around in our heads about how the world should operate. And in this specific case, it's a highly exaggerated, achievement-oriented iceberg belief. It's an internal voice just screaming, it has to be perfect, or failure is a sign of weakness. It exists exactly like an iceberg under the water, right? You don't even see it, but it completely controls your behavior, basically forcing you to spend way too much time obsessing over completely minor imperfections.
Okay, let's dive into this, because we need to ask ourselves a profound question that completely shatters that iceberg belief. And that question is, when does high quality stop creating value? You see, perfectionism feels like a virtue, but in reality, it is literally stealing your absolute most valuable asset, which is your time. So to break free from this trap once and for all, we're going to walk through 5 highly practical concepts that will completely rewire how you approach your daily tasks.
Number 1. Define the purpose. Before you even open a fresh document or start a new project, you really need to step back and ask yourself, what is the actual goal of this task? Is the goal to design some award-winning visual layout, or is it simply to communicate a quick project status to a team that honestly just needs the raw numbers? Setting a crystal clear purpose right up front builds a massive defense against your own demanding self-talk. It literally stops those automatic thoughts in their tracks, the ones that say, I have to polish this, or I must make this look flawless. When you know the actual purpose, you give yourself a hard boundary. You prevent yourself from getting lost in those completely unnecessary, endless polishing loops that might look like hard work, but are actually just perfectionism in a very clever disguise.
Number 2. Define good enough before starting.
Okay, here is a hard truth about time management and professional behavior. Not every single task that lands on your desk requires exceptional quality. It just doesn't. Take a customer proposal, for example. That document is going out into the real world. It represents your brand. It absolutely requires polish, a highly professional tone, and really careful review. But contrast that with some informal internal meeting notes just for your own team. Those absolutely do not need a custom design. They just require speed and clarity. You have to match your effort level to the actual demands of the specific task in front of you. Treating your internal meeting notes exactly like a major customer proposal isn't being a high performer. It's honestly just a massive misallocation of your own time.
Number 3. Recognize diminishing returns.
There is a harsh economic reality built into every single project you will ever do, and it's this. At some point, each additional hour you invest adds significantly less value than the hour right before it. Think about those first 3 hours of work. You are creating massive value. You are structuring the core ideas, building the arguments, doing all the real heavy lifting. But as you cross over into hours 4, 5, and 6, that value curve completely flattens out. You are investing the exact same amount of time and physical energy, but the added value is microscopic. Changing a font from Arial to Helvetica literally does not move the needle. Recognizing this flattened curve helps you realize that all that extra time isn't actually making the work better. It's just making you more tired.
Number 4. Timebox perfectionistic tasks. If you know for a fact that you have an exaggerated control belief where your inner voice is always whispering, I have to do this myself perfectly, well, you need a structured defense mechanism to put limits on your own exhausting work habits, and timeboxing is incredibly practical for this. Step 1. You set a hard limit up front. You tell yourself, I will spend exactly 3 hours on this presentation and then it is completely finished. Step 2.
You literally set a timer, and when that timer rings, you stop. No negotiating with yourself. And step 3, you call it finished. This little procedure is so powerful because it actively overrides those demanding automatic thoughts. By making the clock the boss, you substitute that demanding self-talk of, I have to keep going until it's flawless, with a firm, highly healthy boundary.
And number 5, shift from perfect to valuable.
So the crucial point is this. You need a major psychological shift in how you evaluate your own output, and really, how you define your own success. Perfect means obsessing over flawless details, making sure every single pixel is aligned, and agonizing over things that, let's be honest, no one else will even notice. Valuable, on the other hand, means doing work that creates actual impact, solves the problem at hand, and actually moves the project forward. We must evaluate our work by the actual value it creates in the real world, rather than whether every single isolated detail magically aligns with some impossible standard of flawlessness. Because at the end of the day, value is what your team actually needs. Perfect is just what your ego wants.
Let's circle back to that opening story for a minute. But this time, let's look at the ideal reality. Hour 0, the employee starts the presentation. Hour 3, they recognize the value curve is flattening out, they hit their time box limit, and boom, the presentation is finished. Now look at hour 6. Because they didn't waste 3 agonizing hours adjusting fonts and tiny icons, they have completely finished another, entirely different, highly important task. They reclaimed those 3 hours. They stayed right in their circle of control, bypassed those hidden iceberg beliefs, and it literally doubled their actual output for the day.
It all comes down to being radically honest with yourself when you feel that familiar urge to keep tweaking, keep polishing, and keep staring at a screen long after the real work is actually done. So the very next time you find yourself hesitating to hit send, I want you to look at what you are doing and ask yourself one simple question. Are you actually improving the work, or are you just making it harder to call it finished?